Why are you ripping down posters?
There's nothing about the situation would lead a normal person to be hopeful.
This was made about a year ago, finished about a year ago, and it's been screened at like 100 different festivals, college campuses. That's very important to you, isn't it? That this is a movie about having a conversation.
This is a film about America, not about the Middle East, and that's exactly why it was so important for me to show the film and have disagreements without dehumanizations all across the United States. The most important thing for me was to screen it in colleges and universities. We screened it not just in front of Jewish audiences. I've screened it in front of Christians and Mormons and Muslims. I would say the most powerful Q&A I had was about a week ago. I couldn't make it, and the audience just stayed and spoke with each other. And the usher had to kick them out after 30 minutes. So that was, I think, one of the most powerful Q&As I had.
And I'm sure that audience probably had, as all the audiences would have, different reactions to the movie. But I've heard you say that's exactly what you want. You want there to be civil engagement among audience members.
The film is a time capsule to winter 2023. I never in my worst nightmares thought that this horrible war would last over 700 days. I wanted to invite people for a conversation. I wanted to ask, why is empathy a limited resource when we are thousands of miles away from the actual war? And the least we can do is not import the craziness here, but try to have a conversation. Specifically as Americans, New York is the home for such a huge Jewish community, such a big Muslim community, so many people in the middle with no direct skin in the game, but still there are no conversations. We are more siloed and echo-chambered and divided than ever. So even though the film is only about winter 2023, it's a mirror to where we are today, specifically with freedom of speech in America.
I want to ask about the voices that you included in the film. What was your first connection with Nim?
We actually met on the sidewalk in Union Square. We were at a rally for the hostages. I was just trying to post as much as I could about Omer. We still thought he was alive. I think I was the only college student who was there. So everyone there just kind of jumped on it and started talking to me and asking me about my opinions. And one of those crazy adults was Nim. And then I told him, I was like, I actually just made this painting for one of my classes about the torn posters. And I showed him a picture on my phone and he was like, you're perfect for this. So it was a very simple interaction, but it started a beautiful trajectory of my life that I'm really grateful for.
What was it like for you just as a subject?
I sat down for maybe 2 hours and I cried a lot in front of the camera, so I appreciate you not including that footage. Genuinely, it was the first time anyone asked me how I was doing in 3 months, besides my parents, because nobody at school wanted to touch the topic. No faculty, no students, barely anyone I was friends with wanted to ask the question. You were kind of a saving grace mentally in that moment. So I was just very honest about it, and I cried a lot, and then afterwards I went to a restaurant and I ate a piece of chocolate cake and cried in the back just to get all the emotions out. And then I completely blacked out, totally forgot everything that I said until I saw the first cut of the film, and that was what reminded me what I actually said in the interview.
When Julia's talking about crying a lot, but you not including all of her tears in the movie, was that across the spectrum of interview subjects, was that important to you to keep the film somewhat a little more sober so that it wasn't just all emotion from all the subjects who obviously have a lot of things to be, like Julia, emotional about?
I tried to walk between so much rain and not get wet. I had a lot of conversations and shouting with my editor of how can we make this work? We filmed it, we didn't know Omer was killed. So many different questions, and how do we make this evergreen for audiences? The conversations that are happening or have been happening for the past almost 2 years are both online and offline. That's why there is footage from Fox News to Al Jazeera weaved in the film, and of course, a lot of social media. Because it was so hard to get a response from the other side, I wanted not just to show people fight verbally and physically, but also try to collect a manifest of the reasoning why people are doing it, to kind of like bring their voices into the conversation. If people ask me if I ever interacted with someone ripping down the poster, and I always say I haven't, but as a vegan, the worst time to tell someone that they're eating an animal is when they're chewing a steak. So I don't think these conversations were helping when you're coming to someone that is ripping down the poster. I really, honestly, wanted to connect with people that ripped down the poster, but they said that they already said everything there is to say, or they didn't reply. And I decided on giving Nina the reply to read out loud, because kind of like going through this arc of like, I'm trying to scream as hard as I can, but I don't feel like I'm making any difference. And I always try to end on a hopeful note, but it's very, very discouraging that we see activists trying to stop what is happening, and the people in power are not listening to what both the people of Israel, both Americans are saying, and of course Palestinians, that the war needs to end.
We all feel so helpless and hopeless no matter what side you're on. And in your daily life, how do you feel optimistically about the future?
Over the last 2 years, it genuinely changes every minute, whether I do feel hopeful or not. Omer's body is still there. It's almost 2 years on October 7th. So in like 2 weeks, it'll be exactly 2 years. Part of me feels like I've kind of lost hope in the world that we live in. I don't know if this is normal and I'm just waking up to it, or we're really in unprecedented times. I don't know, I'm 24. I don't have the experience to know that. But I think really identifying like who you have an issue with, what about them is harmful. So for me, it was that they didn't ask questions and they didn't listen to my experience. And I tried to challenge myself to not put more of that into the world. When I would speak to them, really ask a genuine question out of curiosity and listen to their answer and reflect on it the days following. And, trying to be the light in the world that I felt was missing. And that takes a lot on your mental health. I wasn't always in the place to do that, but again, it was people like Nim and my Jewish community and my mom. Shout out to my mom. It was people like that who were really my net and my support system in my journey to try and make my little corner of the world better.
Thank you both so much. Congratulations, Nim.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us, and thank you for coming. Yeah.